Evening to all our viewers today. Thank you for joining us. Today we have with us, firstly, let me apologize for the delay due to the technical challenges we've been facing. Today we have with us a very special guest. He has been in the forefront to deal with carbon emissions. He's a co-founder and the vice chairperson of Puro.earth. That's the world's leading carbon crediting platform for engineered carbon removal. Puro.earth has a Puro Standard, and that's the world's first standard, which is focused on carbon removal that durably stores carbon from the atmosphere for 100 plus years. He's a very sought after keynote speaker in topics around transformation needed to reverse carbon emissions, climate change, and an entrepreneur with years of experience in strategy creation, implementation, and business model innovation. Very warm welcome, Antti, and I apologize for the delay again.
No worries. Thank you, Harsha. Yes, I'm happy to be here.
How did you manage to launch Puro.earth in just 71 days? And what can entrepreneurs learn from that?
Yeah, indeed. We were basically funding was time limited at the time when we started Puro, and therefore we had to compress many sort of decisions to the most latest stage that you can in order to learn as much as possible, then make the decisions very quickly, and also have the mental preparedness to reconsider if new evidence comes up. But the point is that we had a very, very compact team. It was just me and my co-founder. We used some consultants for which we had reserved some funding as well. And we were able to do a sort of a very quick implementation of both the standard, the methodologies, sort of the contractual framework around both of those. We were able to, develop the technology that was needed, and train the auditors, and get claims from the suppliers that wanted to sell their credits. And then we organized a auction for the removals, and matches happened, and we sent invoices, and all of that took just 71 days. So it was a very intense spring in 2019. But one thing, it was also true that we knew that since the Nordics and much of the European countries would be going on summer holiday, we just realized that there's no way for us to delay. If we wanted to get some evidence that it works, just had to do it before that. So taking into consideration the context and where we are in the year, just forced us to be really quite quick.
It's very inspiring because most of us are still working out on the product, and here you launched it all the way. So what are the biggest challenges in creating a new market for engineered carbon removal?
Well, the whole concept of negative emissions was really not very well established. So every time when we met with a new person, we actually had to start from scratch, explaining why is it that negative emissions are important, and what is net zero, and what is the pathway to net zero. And of course, because of that, we actually had to come up with our own principles for carbon mathematics that we used. We had to define system boundaries for the methodologies that we were creating. Of course, we took advice from the then existing life cycle assessment practices, but it was deployed in a perhaps a little bit novel manner. And we used that for calculating negative emissions instead of a carbon footprint. But the same logic worked there as well. But establishing the foundation was the biggest challenge there.
Yeah. Now, why should companies move beyond carbon offsetting and focus on carbon removal instead? You see, the authenticity of the carbon credits is also questioned many a times. So, how do you ensure these things are taken care of?
Well, in our opinion, reducing emissions is, of course, the first and foremost priority. But everybody should be responsible for reducing their own emissions themselves, and we believe that they shouldn't be outsourced to somebody else. And this is, it is indeed the pathway to net zero is to sort of neutralize the emissions that are unavoidable. And of course, we also need to look beyond 2050. And the only way to actually reduce the CO2 concentration in the atmosphere is to produce massive amounts of carbon removals so that we would get the trajectory to go downwards and not just less upwards when it comes to the CO2 concentration.
I see.
One more thing. You asked about the sort of integrity perspective. The the challenge with some of the offsets has been that they are based on a counterfactual baseline that is positive. There were some emissions and now there are less of those emissions. That is something that can be disputed by different kinds of actors or stakeholders, and therefore it is prone for debates. Whereas in the carbon removal space, it is possible to quantify the number of molecules that have been taken away from the atmosphere, basically. Sort of just since it is net negative, sort of locking of physical carbon away from the atmosphere, it's much easier than relying on something that is counterfactual.
So you have a technology that does that? Like you've developed a
It's
technology for that?
no, it's not a single technology. It's just the basic logic for building our methodologies, or to select which methodologies we begin to work with to begin with. So once you select the methodology that allows quantification to happen by measuring and not by modeling, and you actually just quantify the amount of CO2 taken away from the atmosphere, netted with the amount of emissions associated with that activity, it's just sort of all these bits and pieces come together, and it is quite easy to understand and easy to demonstrate that it is true.
So how do CORCs ensure transparency and credibility in carbon removal markets? As I mentioned, so you all have some proprietary methodology that you all have created, and that's how you would issue the carbon credits?
Yes. So first of all, corks that's the unit, that's the carbon credit, the name of the carbon credit that we are issuing. That's a CO2 removal certificate. And the starting point is indeed the methodologies. And we are in our organization, we sort of select the candidates based, to which we will start to build these methodologies. But we do that together with our advisory board, which is, by the way, chaired by the professor from University of Oxford, Miles Allen. He is, long time sort of a geophysicist advocating for removals and net zero starting from 2005, so already 20 years. And so he is leading the advisory board that guides our methodology creation efforts. And that helps us, of course. It lends us credibility and, also guides us in a way that we don't venture into areas that might have some risks. So when an audit is done and, the auditor comes back to us with a report, we issue credits into a registry that is publicly available at registry.puro.earth. Anybody can go there and look at the different transactions, be it an issuance of a credit, a sort of when it is sold, it is moved from one account to another account, and then at the end of the life cycle, it is retired. And you can see who are the actors there and what sort of an activity each credit represents. So there's a full audit trail from the credit, from the one that benefits from the credit, all the way to the activity that the credit was generated against, who were the auditors, and what are the other sort of factors that one needs to take into account.
I see. Now, you've been an impact entrepreneur since more than a decade. Now, what is the secret behind scaling up globally and still have impact to the core?
Yeah. Well, voluntary carbon markets are global, and therefore it would be it doesn't necessarily make sense to concentrate on just certain geographies. So, and besides, there was a clear sort of a void in this area. So we just basically filled in that void, and with that, we have been able to demonstrate that there is a possibility to start building real businesses, real industries into novel areas when there is this monetization opportunity available. Now, of course, one thing that is a significant factor is that my personal experience is on building global businesses, and of course the whole commitment to do something significant. Significant meaning significant from the perspective of the climate. We've only got one climate. It doesn't make a difference where the activity happens, but we need to do a lot of it, and therefore this global scope is natural for us.
Okay. Now I have one question, but I'm going to bifurcate it into two. Now, which carbon removal technologies or business models do you see are most investable? And I also want to integrate this question with technology. So how are you using AI? Are you using these modern upcoming technologies, and how are you shaping things up?
Well, these are difficult questions, and so it's a little bit like asking, which one of your children you like best. And that is, of course, a question to which there is no real answer. But luckily, you did provide some sort of qualifiers over there. And most investable means that, first of all, you need to sort of look into the preferences of an investor. And if the investor is really sort of wants to do catalytic things that wouldn't have happened without their sort of investment into a certain area. So on the catalytic side, I would say that enhanced rock weathering and the marine CDR, sort of ocean-related activities, are really promising and will need some investors and buyers that are patient, that accept sort of failure and iteration and trial. For ERW or enhanced rock weathering, we know that weathering happens. The thing that we need to innovate on is the cost-efficient measurement of that. How much of it happens. On the marine CDR, I think the environmental safeguards are the ones that are the most important things in that. And then on the industrial side, if you are an investor that really wants to get a certain return for their money, biochar and BECCS are really good. They are well understood. So biochar investments, more and more of them. And I think, that's easy to justify because let's say, if you have access to feedstock, then the technology is well understood and the risks are fairly low. BECCS or bioenergy with carbon capture and storage are, of course, they are very large investments, but the technology is also quite well understood. So, but the ticket size is very big. So there, it's hundreds of millions of dollars, the sort of the starting size of a project.
I see.
And when it comes to the AI, well, we make use of it internally, so quite a bit. So we are making use of AI in sort of helping our internal people to assess some questions that we get from outside, whether they are compliant or not with our methodologies and our rules. So that's definitely one area where we are making use of AI.
I see. Any tools that you would like to recommend? I know this is off the track, but everyone is very excited about knowing AI tools.
They are excited about what?
Knowing AI tools. Any tools that you would like to recommend?
I personally, I have been using ChatGPT for the past, well, almost 3 years now. Well, yeah, I guess. So that has been my primary tool.
Okay. Okay. Now you are in a market wherein governance is a big issue. Many governments are coming up with their policies. What policy changes are urgently needed to make carbon removal mainstream for the corporates, especially in the emerging part of the world? There is a lot of gray area, and as you had earlier mentioned about the integrity, that is also questioned many a time. So what are the policy changes and ensuring the integrity is also maintained of the credits that are issued?
Well, I mean, well, I'm a firm believer in voluntary carbon markets. They are a really great way to get started and test different kinds of removal activities. However, in order to get to this sort of thousands of millions of tons of capacity, that is gigaton scale in terms of removal capacity, one probably needs to introduce some mandates, something that companies are uh, one way or the other forced to neutralize their emissions. And in Europe, we are seeing that there is the emissions trading system (ETS) with a sort of lowering cap on emissions, and that is effectively giving a price for carbon, and that is reducing carbon emissions. Now, integrating carbon removals into that system in a manner that would require the participating companies to purchase a certain small percentage of their emission allowances to be removals would make a huge difference. Of course, over time, as the quotas for emissions decrease, it's likely that the removal capacity or the removal credits within that system need to increase as well. So I would say that if there's one sort of single activity that would make a significant difference, it is to integrate CDR or carbon dioxide removal into an emission trading scheme.
I see. It's very interesting. And how do you see that governments from other countries or maybe the NGO sector could or corporates can come together to align with the vision of net zero?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't think that there's a huge dispute over the way to get to net zero. I think nobody's really challenging that. It's just that the reason for corporations to put their hard-earned money into this has still been lacking, and I think the voluntary carbon markets has been a partial sort of answer to that, but to large scale deployment, I think and in order to convince more companies to become active, I think compliance markets are essential.
I see. Last but not the least, how has Finland influenced your leadership and sustainability vision at Puro.earth?
Well, I would say that probably, just the idea of inclusion and meritocracy, so that, if you are good at something, you should be, allowed to run it. We also believe in a sort of debate. So the best solution should win, and not, my opinion or my co-founder's opinion necessarily. So. We've always been sort of we've always recruited people based on time zone, not based on a certain city or something. So that's why we've been able to get a lot of good sort of high value competence into the company, but so that we, in a manner that we have people where our customers are, where our stakeholders are. So we have people from Australia all the way to the west of US and quite a few places in between. So we can operate globally, and yeah, I think that's part of the Finnish acceptance that we are a small country tucked away in the corner of the civilized world, and we just need to be sort of very actively outbound, proactively.
I see. Anything that we from IICSR could do to collaborate and accelerate the mission that you are on? And any final message to all our viewers who are watching right now or could watch tomorrow?
Well, I mean, there's a tremendous opportunity within many value chains to sort of start making their own carbon removals. So any industry with that has sort of biomass side streams could be a source of sort of carbon removal. So you can by pyrolyzing agricultural residues. You can produce biochar and earn either removals into your own to be sort of included in your own emissions calculations, or you can sell them to other corporations if that makes more financial sense. So I would suggest everybody to look into their value chains and see if there are opportunities. For mining companies, there may be tailings that are unused that could be used for enhanced rock weathering. And examples are abound. So it makes sense to look into the methodologies that we have on our website and check out if any of them are applicable in your activity chain.
I really appreciate your time. Any final message to all our viewers who are watching right now?
Well, I mean, becoming active now rather than tomorrow is yeah, that's recommended.
Thank you so very much, Antti. It was a pleasure to have you, and we look forward to sharing the message with everyone.